back to the Browns.
Yeah.
The contract that was re-signed by Jadeveon Clowney last week. He's back with the team. We probably talked about that. We do have Jadeveon Clowney talking about why he decided to stay with the Browns for a second year. Here he is from late last week.
I just want to chase that Super Bowl. I think we got a shot at it. We had a great defense last year that went out and got some more key players on offense and some more on defense. And I just feel like we got a shot. And I wouldn't want to do it no better team than the one I just played with last year.
I think the key as to whether or not they have a shot is how many games they're going to have Deshaun Watson for. It's kind of hard to assess where the Browns are. The bets aren't even on the board. Playoffs, not make the playoffs. The over-under win total. They are on the board for division championship, which makes no sense to me. How can you even begin to assess the Browns in any respect until you know whether or not they're going to have Deshaun Watson or Jacoby Brissett or Baker Mayfield or somebody else at quarterback? But look, they have a talented team, and last year it was the Mayfield injury that threw everything off. We really didn't get a chance to see how good the Browns could be last year because their starting quarterback was injured all season.
No, I know. You're right. And again, it's a team that I think we were disappointed in. Yeah, they had the quarterback injury for sure. But, man, I mean, to piggyback off of what Jadeveon Clowney saying there, I mean, damn, yeah, the Rams are one of those teams. The Browns are one of those teams when you look at them on paper – kind of like the Rams, you go, damn, there's a lot of good football players on this team. Like, damn, holy cow, everywhere. Denzel Ward and Newsome at corner, John Johnson at safety, and Grant Delpit. Owusu Koromoa and Anthony Walker at linebacker. Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Chase Vinovich. I mean, the defense it's stacked. They got players everywhere. Offense, we know it's one of the best offensive lines in football. Now you add in Amari Cooper, the two-headed monster running back, and David Njoku. I mean, I understand him wanting to go back there for sure. But, yeah, the quarterback thing's a real thing. They are a team, though, that I look at to go, damn, they're talented enough on paper that even with Jacoby Brissett, they should still be a pain in the butt no matter who they play against. There should not be a team in football that really overpowers or outmatches the Cleveland Browns in any certain area. They are a very well-constructed football team.
But isn't it a completely different approach offensively if you have Deshaun Watson versus somebody else? I mean, Watson allows you to open up the passing game in a way that the Browns haven't in recent years.
Definitely, right.
And if it's Jacoby Brissett or Baker Mayfield, it's more of a running presence.
Yes, I don't disagree with you. They're more dangerous. We know that with Deshaun Watson. If he's hitting on all cylinders and ready to go and played a few weeks, then yes, they're going to be a handful to deal with, especially with what we know with their running game. You're right. I mean, if it's Jacoby Brissett or Baker Mayfield, yeah, there's going to be a little bit more maybe of a conscious effort to tie the run game with the pass game. Let's not put it all on our quarterback and make him, have to carry the team that way. And that's where the Deshaun Watson thing is interesting because he'll be able to do that on the days their running game doesn't work. But, man, when their running game does work and then you got Deshaun Watson, watch out. And that's what's going to be tough about them. But, yeah, Watson is going to be a big thing to watch as far as how the AFC plays out. That's for sure.
One other point regarding the Browns before we take a break, and I think this technically falls into the Chris in his hammock with his pina colada and his blunt 4-day weekend because Peter King and I mentioned this on Friday.
Right.
The report from the Charlotte Observer that the Panthers wanted the Browns to pay $13 to $14 million of Baker Mayfield's $18.8 million salary as part of trade discussions that happened during the draft. It fell apart. It's a huge gap. It just shows you the lack of leverage the Browns have when it comes to foisting the entirety of the contract onto someone else. They're going to have to pay some of it, and in the Panthers' estimation, the Panthers wanted them to pay a lot of it. That is still out there. That is still lingering, whether it's the Seahawks, who have really not shown dramatic interest in Baker Mayfield, the Panthers, who haven't ruled out the possibility of bringing him in, the Browns maybe keeping him around until they know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, maybe somebody else out there. I don't know, but it's still unresolved, and now we know why he's not a Panther. The Panthers really wanted the Browns to pay a huge amount of the money that Mayfield will make this year.
I wonder what else they were going to send, along with that. I had kind of missed this on Friday. I didn't really catch on to this until yesterday a little bit. But, yeah, I do wonder that just as far as where it is. Because, again, like you talked about, Cleveland just seems like they have very little leverage here, in my opinion. Again, you could say all you want. Deshaun Watson, he gets suspended. I is that really realistic to think that Baker Mayfield's going to come back and play for you maybe? I don't see that happening. I just don't think Baker Mayfield's that guy. I think he'd rather go to a Seattle and compete in Carolina, or who knows. Maybe Jameis Winston's still limping a little bit and he goes to New Orleans. There's plenty of places I think of like that to where maybe that's what ends up happening there. So, but I'm a little surprised. I just would like to know what kind of pick was talked about along with we want you to pay the 13 or 14 million. I would think they could find a sweet spot between the pick and the money at some point, but obviously Carolina wasn't happy about it.
But that's the key to remember. The more that the Panthers are paying, the less they give up in draft pick. The less that the Panthers pay of that $18.8 million, the more they'd be willing to give up, and it becomes a transaction that way. So it's part of the balance. So, if the Panthers were sending a third-round pick and expecting the Browns to pay $13 to $14 million, that's one thing. If the Panthers are sending a sixth-round pick and expecting the Browns to pay $13 to $14 million, that's another. But those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And as one drops, the other goes up. As the other goes down, the other goes up, and you find the sweet. It's two different things that have to come together to make that deal happen, and obviously it hasn't happened yet, and we don't know.
What do you think? What do you like? What's your gut? What's pasta and meatballs? Do you think he ends up there? Where do you feel like he's going to end up when all's said and done?
I want to say the Browns because I feel like they're going to need him, but that bridge is obliterated, and I've heard nothing. I've seen nothing to suggest that they've found a way to mend fences.
Right.
I think Carolina is the only one that makes sense right now, and they've already the bottom line is we know they wanted him. The question though is what do they do with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Matt Corral? What do you do at that point? Or you go with Mayfield and Darnold and let Corral develop this year? I don't know.
I don't know either. I think you run the risk a little bit if you're Cleveland where okay, now you didn't make that move to trade Baker during the draft and all that, and now, wait, Ben McAdoo, who's there in Carolina, hey, Sam Darnold's doing pretty good. I mean, he's really taking on the offense. Man, I like Sam Darnold. I think we can make it work. Or Matt Corral. Whoa, damn, Matt Corral's a little more advanced than I thought, and we've already heard them gushing about his talent a little bit. And then you add that could hurt, Baker's chances there too. At some point, Carolina can just go, you know what? We're actually kind of good. We're not going to mess with what we got here right now and throw another, wrench into this whole situation and everything there. And I think you are risking that too with Cleveland.
You know what? I think they're going to keep him for now.
Yeah.
And for a couple of reasons. He's making the 18.8 whether he's on the team or not.
Yep, right.
They could carry him through training camp, and if he plays ball with them, if they say we're going to pay you to not show up, and he's okay with that. The only problem is if he shows up and creates a distraction. And then if he goes too far, that's when they can try to do the Earl Thomas thing that the Ravens did a couple of years ago where they cut him for reasons unrelated to skill, injury, or cap. For personal conduct that's detrimental to the best interest of the team if he's in there just acting up and being a jerk. And that's where he needs to be very careful to always do the right thing. He needs to be Eddie Haskell when he's at the facility if he shows up. But if he's okay with the idea, we're going to put you on ice, we're going to wait for a trade opportunity, we're going to pay you every check, and then let's get to the trade deadline and see what happens. And on the other side of the trade deadline, we'll work something out to make you a free agent if we can't trade you. That's the only deal that I think Baker Mayfield would go with at this point. If it entails not being released by the Browns in the immediate future. An understanding that he'll be traded, potentially, and then after the trade deadline, they'll do what they did with Odell Beckham Jr. What they do, they kept Beckham until the trade deadline. They didn't trade him, and then they released him after that. And he did give up some of his money, but I think if Mayfield's going to play ball with the Browns, maybe they need to accept the fact that they're going to pay him the full amount of what he's due after the trade deadline if they can't trade him. I have a feeling that's where this is going.
It could be. I just know, and I think you would be the same way. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to be like that easy. I'm coming to work still. I'm going to make things uncomfortable. So I want to play football this year. I only have so many years in my career to play football, and you guys screwed this up, and you guys put me in this situation, and now you guys are going to hold me hostage. And that's where, if I'm him, at some point you got to go, if it gets to that point, and I do think you got to show up, practice, and start being a little bit annoying, and hopefully not cross that line to where they can run you out of town like Earl Thomas and what you're saying there.
And the other side of it too is this isn't just about making your $18.8 million this year. This is about laying the foundation
for future,
for next year.
Right.
So you go somewhere and you play this year and you show that you can play. So if he's on ice until the trade deadline and then they cut him, this isn't plug and play like OBJ. You got to find a team that needs a quarterback. Who's going to need a quarterback in November or December? So you just hang around and wait for somebody to get injured, and then you get thrust into a situation.
And you're trying to learn a playbook and all these. Exactly. And maybe you don't play good because you're learning an offense. You're right. Now your values hurt. So that's, to me, Mike, I know you've said it a few times. I think at some point, he might have to pull the old Steve McNair or whatever if it gets to that and start just going, okay, I'm here. Yep, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you, and I hope it's uncomfortable because I'm going to be here every day. And he might have to do that at some point.
This is like Deshaun Watson in Houston last year.
It is, right?
Really?
It's funny. You're right. It really is.
How long will this dance last of team paying a guy to be on the team but not play? It just does not feel like it's getting resolved anytime soon.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.